All right, and we're going to be on our fourth day of the Week of Awesome here on Everything is Awesome. Coming up next is our conversation. Recorded this a while ago. Had such a fun conversation with him. Part 1 with Mike from the Doom Thugs podcast right here on awesomepodcast.com.
Did you have an awesome time? Did you drink awesome shooters and listen to awesome music and then just sit around and soak up each other's awesomeness?
Awesome.
That was awesome.
You guys are awesome.
No, you're awesome.
No, you are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything is Awesome. I'm your host, Kev, and this is the show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. This week's guest, I believe if my math is right, marks around episode 41, I think. I'm going to go on the record and say 41. So we've made it to kind of a couple epic numbers now. We're gearing towards our 1-year anniversary episode. Well, I guess I have 2 1-year anniversaries, one we started recording and one we started releasing. But regardless, we're heading towards that big 5-0. Exciting things for Everything is Awesome. A little bit of housekeeping before we introduce our guest. No, you know what? This show is airing after our New York live show. So thank you for coming to New York Comic Con and the live show that we participated in outside of Comic Con. But you can still catch us live November 17th. I believe I have that date right, at Bridgeset Sound. They're opening their doors for us to do a live show there at 8 p.m. So come check us out at Bridgeset Sound on South Street in Philadelphia. Anyway, this week's guest is someone who is one of those great people that came from the Philadelphia Podcasting Society. I don't even have to bury that lead anymore. You guys know what that is by now. So many of the great people have come from the podcasting world, have usually come from this group. And it was at the Philadelphia Podcast Festival, the day that we did our show, that this guy was just there to watch. He was supporting fellow podcasters. His show wasn't even until the next weekend. And we got talking briefly at the bar, and I recognized him simply because of like his look was very distinct from the way they do a great job marketing, because the way they post their episode pictures, it's unique each and every time. I was fortunate enough to be able to listen to a couple episodes to do a little bit of prep in the last day or two. Please welcome to the show. I'm not going to even attempt the last name, but Mike A. from Doom Thugs, the official podcast of DoomThugs.com, the unofficial official podcast of Delco Times, maybe, is, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, of course. Hello.
Hi, Mike. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here, man.
Oh, no, thank you so much for having me. That was a wonderful intro. I feel great. That was,
Yeah.
Let me say this. When you recognized me at the bar, that was probably one of the greatest moments of my life.
Well, yeah, you have that distinct look.
Yeah.
And it's real. I mean, it's no different than, that's what I'm going to assume you're in your mid to late 20s, maybe early 30s.
That is correct.
That's kind of, I guess, the look that of that age group, because I did it in my early 20s. Like, I had that long hair and the beard as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was a very distinct. You have, I don't know, you pop out more in those pictures, and I think it's because of the long hair, and that just might be my fascination with long hair, because I cannot grow it anymore.
Yeah, that was my thing. I'm going to grow it before it's gone. So
Yeah.
like, this might be my last shot.
I went through a phase within the last, we'll say, 5 years, and my son is 4.5 years old.
Wow.
So probably right before he was born, I was like, I'm going to try to grow it out, see what happens. Like, when I had my hair long, which was in my mid 20s, and I was already starting to thin out, but it was long enough that it hit everything.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, I wonder if I just, like, the issue I always had when I was like a late teenager, really early 20s, was that, like, when I started to grow it out, it just got to an awkward like afro stage.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't. I'm just gonna shave it and like do my preppy haircut style and whatnot. And I guess that for the kids today, that's the hipster haircut where it's still kind of long on top and it's combed over.
Yeah.
But I just always got annoyed with it, and finally I let it grow out. But my hair was, thinning, so I hit it well. But I tried doing it again for about 4 or 5 years ago, and even to like, I can't even get it. I could get it to the awkward fro stage.
Yeah.
Except the fro stage would be, I guess like the Montgomery Burns. like it's I have more of like a Rob Corddry is probably more accurate of what my hair looks like, where it's got that patch in the front, everything on the sides and back, but nothing on top.
Oh yeah, that's not. You can't do that.
No, yeah. I mean, I started. I was like, oh man, and 4 years ago, it was probably a little bit more hair on top. So, but it was still very Rob Corddry, maybe Rob Corddry plus. But yeah, so I have just given up on the fact that I can't even really grow hair. Like I have to shave it or it looks ridiculous.
Right. How often do you have to shave it?
Well, I should be shaving it. I should probably do it once a week to like not make it look ridiculous. But I usually, I let it go every other week sometimes. That's when it gets real bad. That's when I'm like, okay, I have to shave it at this point, because I used to just do like electric buzzers on zero, just no guide.
Yeah.
And that looks fine. Like there's still a little bit of stubble. You can tell that I'm bald, but it doesn't look bad.
Yeah.
But I still like to clean, like the Mr. Clean look. So I like to bick it every once in a while.
Ooh, what's that like?
I mean, now that I've been doing it for so long,
right.
It's no big deal. I mean, I actually probably about a month ago, bicked it for the first time in like years. Like I was doing just the electric buzz down to zero. And so it was the first time I bicked it in a while, and because of that, like the back of my head, I just went and like I was like, oh, that's totally just a big chunk of skin I carved out of my head. And we actually went whitewater rafting that day.
Man.
And I showed up. It was like, because our thing is we went last year for my buddy's bachelor party. And so now we make it a yearly thing that we go whitewater rafting. And I show up to my buddy's house. He's like, what did you do? Like,
you got some color.
Yeah, it was, I used to wrestle. I don't know if you've ever listened to my show, but
yeah, that's on my list. I definitely want to talk about that as much as you can.
It's a theme of this show. It's like I bring it up often. In fact, my one guest, Bernardo from This Makes Me Happy, the podcast, he made a drinking
earlier.
Yep, he made a drinking game out of this show, and I told him next time that he's on the show, he has to share the rules so we can all partake.
Oh yeah, hell yeah!
But so I mean that's how often I talk about wrestling. Is that was one of the drinks was I talk about it. But yeah, I mean when I wrestled, I never bled so much from that time that I cut my head a month or two ago.
Did you bleed at all while you were a wrestler? Let me ask you this first of all. You were trained by Reckless Youth, you said, right?
Correct. Yes.
Was that at Chikara Factory? Or was that after you left Chikara?
No, it was after. It was after he left.
Okay.
He had a couple kids by this point.
Uh-huh.
I want to say Chikara, and I could be way wrong because I probably should know more, but I believe Chikara was like right before his WWE farm team stint.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And so he did. I met him. He had, I think, 2 little kids and 1 on the way. And I was fortunate enough to like get some of the stories about the farm team. Like he was supposed to so obviously you're a fan of wrestling.
Yeah.
Do you remember Billy and Chuck and Rico?
Yes.
They wanted him to be Rico.
What?
They wanted him to shave, like grow his hair out and style it like that, shave the mutton chops. And he told him, he's like, what's for me after that? Like,
right.
what? He's like, I don't see a future in that.
That's a pretty dead end right there. It's like you can't come back from Rico.
Yeah, and I mean, Rico did not come back from Rico.
No.
And I don't. I mean, that's not fair for me to say because I don't really watch it on the regular basis anymore. But I mean, that was 15 years ago. I think
That's crazy.
It's a long time ago. But yeah, so that's it was after he was done in the WWE, and he was back in the Jersey, Philly area, just kind of doing local things.
Yeah.
And somehow, I don't even know, but the thing that we had started in Falls Township over here in Bucks County, somehow he got involved, him and Don Montoya.
What?
They got involved, and they started wrestling with us. I think at that point, were we still Falls Township Wrestling? I believe we were, but we were starting to transition into the guy who fronted the money for the license didn't want to do it anymore. So NWA backed us for a little while. I think that's how we hooked up with them.
The National Wrestling Alliance?
Well, but see, I don't think it was like the legit NWA because there's so many of them. They're like they have a home base in Jersey.
Yeah.
And so it was that NWA that backed us.
It's not Ric Flair's NWA.
No. I doubt it. I mean, maybe at one point they were linked, but I think that those initials and that name is just used everywhere in every state.
Yeah.
But yeah. So and then he trained me, and he was So it's funny. I don't know if you ever heard of Nubius Black. He is, I think, much lesser known than Reckless Youth. He was like an indie guy in this area. I don't think he.
It sounds very familiar.
He wrestled. I mean, I kind of remember him starting out when I was like a teenager, going to the one venue that always had it. Mm-hmm. But I know him more from actually like becoming a friend of his. And he actually was, I don't know if you are a Kevin Smith fan, another drink for those people, but on Comic Book Men, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, he got on their show, like, cause he's a big comic nerd and he has like some sort of collection that he was able to get on. But I was actually looking him up recently because I wanted to get him on my show, and I found Nubius did an interview where he and I kind of remember this. I don't think he's a huge fan of Reckless Youth.
Oh, really? Some trouble there.
Yeah, and the audio is no longer available because I badly wanted to listen to it to kind of remind me of what Nubius said.
Right.
And like I'm gonna be completely two-faced here because I can see two sides of the coin. I can see the Reckless Youth that like people love, and I can see the Reckless Youth that, wow, what a dick.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but you know what? It's I had an issue with, and this was me being young and dumb.
What age are you at this time?
This is probably I was younger than 25. I was probably
wow.
I was probably in my between 22 and 24.
Okay.
When I was getting trained by Reckless. So I was really young, and I like to blame that on a lot of things, especially now that I'm in my early 30s. Like, I guess I approach things a lot differently, and like
crazy how that happens.
Yeah, it's like you kind of mature. It's weird.
Yeah, it's like older people sometimes know what they're talking about. It's
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah, I don't want to be grouped in that older people
No.
at all. But yes, Reckless was a tough trainer. And if I was more appreciative of that, I think it would have gone a lot better. But there was this other guy who was training with me in my training class that, like, I wouldn't say that I was a great wrestler. I think that I had the potential that if I stuck with it and was willing to commit to what you need to commit to make it, I could have done it.
That's a huge commitment too.
Yeah. And it's just something, I mean, at the time, and I wouldn't be where I am today if I did commit to it. So I'm very glad that I didn't commit to it. And I'm glad that I'm happy with what I did in the business. Like, it was, I set out to wrestle professionally. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you talk to my fiance, she'll argue what that means, but I stand by that I did it professionally. I got paid to do it. I may have reinvested that money back into our federation, but
dude, I think you did it.
Yeah,
Yeah, what you did,
yeah,
I'm envious of. That's beautiful.
it was such a fun time of my life. I mean, I did it for a better part, probably more than a decade. You know, I think from 15 to about 25, I think is around when I broke my ankle. But there was a guy that was training, and like he was not as good as me. Like I don't want to be that guy that's like, oh yeah, I'm great, because I wasn't. Like, I wasn't great. I was a Mick Foley. Like I was a guy who could take bumps and I mean, I think Reckless argued I was more of a Bret Hart. Like if I applied myself, I could have been a very methodical, like technical wrestler. Which I guess, like, again, now in hindsight, like, wow, he really did pay me a huge compliment.
I know, right?
But he always favored this guy that was not that great, and like he gave me tons of shit, and like from working me real hard to, like, you know, just saying the rudest shit that he could say.
Right.
And in my early 30s now, I kind of knowing the business even more than I did then, which is weird because I've been out of it as long as I've probably been in it at this point, or at least a couple years to it. And like I feel like that's how you earn your stripes. That's how you earn a place in that business, is you kind of just deal with the hazing, basically.
Yeah. Did you have to do like thousands of squats? That's what I imagine the first day of wrestling training.
No, for me, first day, we only did weekly trainings.
Okay.
So first week, and every session started with bumps, just bumps.
Yeah.
I think we may have started with front flip bumps, but it was just variations of back bumps, jumping and doing a front flip just from the ground and bumping that way. You know, tucking the chin, you know, just over and over, which, you know, is like probably the most important thing to learn.
Oh yeah.
You land wrong, you're fucked.
Right.
Yeah. So, Reckless, I was trained by him, post Chikara days.
That's awesome. So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something I really badly want to get back into, like as far as watching it, but I don't have DVR and I don't have time to watch it because there's just life going around.
You got kids and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm waiting for because I have a son and daughter. I'm not really worried about my daughter getting into it, but
right.
I'm waiting for the day where my son says, "Dad, I want to wrestle," and I wonder what my reaction is going to be after doing it.
Right.
Because I was lucky. I think I've had I've had two quote unquote bad injuries. I landed on my foot wrong because I was a dumbass and did a big boot off the top rope. And
dude, did you learn anything from Sid? Fucking snap your leg.
Well, after that happened, everyone's like, "Did you not watch what happened to Sid?" Because it was probably within a year of that I did that. We were still backyard, and I didn't want. Well, no, I guess it was. I don't know. WCW was still a thing because that's when it happened. So it was right around that time. I guess we were doing live shows, but they were not sanctioned by the state. They were just in people's backyards.
Right. Super illegal.
Super illegal. I think that was when we bought the ring. I think that was the time that I hurt my ankle like that. And everyone's like, "Don't you see don't you see Sid?" I was like, "No." I was like, I thought it was a good idea. And like, it was fine. Like, it just kind of felt sprained. And then I at the time I was working at Staples, and by the end of the night, my ankle was the size of a grapefruit. And I didn't go to the doctor. Like, I tore ligaments. I was like, all right, well, they're going to I Googled it, and they're like, they're going to tell me to get off of it for a couple of days. Right. So yeah, what am I going to do? And then the only other bad one was more of a scare than an injury, is going over a match with one of my buddies. I used to do this move that we called the inverted swanton. So I would stand like I was going to do a moonsault, jump back, but then do a front flip.
Christ.
And I used to do it a lot. And which is like, I mean, you saw me at the Philadelphia Podcast Fest. I'm not a small dude.
Nah.
Back then, I mean, I was probably maybe 180, 190. So I was a lot. I was 40 to 45 pounds lighter.
You're
but I was still
cruiserweight.
Yeah. I mean, I was tall, but I was light. I was real light. Well, comparatively, I guess. I guess 190 is kind of light still.
I consider it light.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 230. I'm probably 240 now, if I had to guess. So, but yeah, I like the ropes were slick, or my boots were slick, and I slipped we had a warehouse that we rented to like rehearse and train in and stuff.
Yeah.
And something was wet, and when I went to jump, I slipped. So instead of doing the front flip, I kind of just landed like forehead first.
Oof.
And like felt a tingle, and I was like, okay, well that move's never gonna happen again.
Right.
Like I was like, there's no way I'll ever have the nerves to do it again, because so it's gonna be me going up there, standing there for a minute and a half before I decide to turn around and just get off or something. So it was something that I just gave up at that moment. But yeah, no, that was. It's gonna sound weird, but I mean, I highly recommend kids out there do it safe, but backyard wrestle. I mean,
I had
it's
a
great.
backyard. I mean, I didn't have many friends. It was basically me and one other kid, but we had, we had wrestling. We had a belt. We had trash cans that we spray painted and hit each other with. And we actually, like once every 6 months, they have like a big trash day where you can put out mattresses and stuff.
Okay.
So we went around and stole several people's mattresses off the curb and jumped off my swing set onto them. It was great. But that's as far as we got. We never actually ran any shows because we were in 6th grade. And,
So yeah, we started probably maybe 8th, maybe 9th, something like that.
right.
Back, same thing. Back, well, we never stole mattresses, but we like so the first thing we did was maybe me and at most 4 or 5 other guys, and it was literally in a backyard, no nothing, punch, kick, clothesline, but like gingerly fall down, fake elbow drop, fake leg drop, bunch of silly crap.
Yeah.
And then we hooked up with these guys who came from a trampoline, but we still wrestled. We wrestled on the ground still. When we kind of formed, we aligned, we merged the two companies.
Right.
For lack of a better term, whatever it is when you're in the backyard.
Oh, dude, I get it. Yeah.
And so they applied their trampoline wrestling to the ground, meaning suplexes and like probably at the end of the day a lot of basic stuff, but like it blew our mind. We're like, holy shit, they're insane.
They're like pros.
And at the time, like I think it was the Monster Factory. Or it may have been, no, it wasn't Monster Factory. It was, I don't know if you know Mad Moose Moretti. He is, again, big in Bucks County.
Okay.
I think, but I think he's kind of big, but like you have to be like really into indie.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't Reckless famous, but he was like indie famous, I guess.
Yeah.
And he like the UWF is what they were called around here, and they've been around since I was a kid. Like that's what I went to when I was like 10 years old or 9 years old to watch. And they offered like junior training, and that's what these like 2 or 3 of these guys came from. Like they did junior training,
right.
So they had like legit experience going into the backyard.
Yeah.
And that like opened up the world, and for years we wrestled on the ground.
That's crazy.
And like, I mean, it's 100% why my back hurts all the time now, and why my knees hurt. And we eventually built a ring in my buddy's backyard, but then Falls Township shut us down. Like they came and like slapped a notice on the front door and said, "You got to take that down." And that was like, I mean. Now it's not a big deal if I say I broke down and cried, because I do it all the time in my 30s. Yeah. but I was probably, I mean, I may have been only like 17 years old.
Yeah.
When we had to break it down.
Yeah.
And it was a very emotional day, because like when we built that. Yeah, I mean, we built that ring. I mean, it was literally tires underneath for springs, plywood, just huge pieces of lumber for the posts. We bought turnbuckles and ropes and the turnbuckle pads, and I think we had carpeting with a tarp on top of it. It looked like a legitimate wrestling ring. Like it was as professional as we could have gotten in our late teens, you know?
Right. That's like building a house for a teenager.
Yeah, and we cemented the post in, which was probably was a mistake in hindsight.
Whose
but
garden was this?
It was just a buddy of mine. He's a kid I've known since birth.
And like the parent situation, did that
They're-
take a lot of like convincing, or
No,
did you
they
just do
were
it?
they were really into the idea of it. They're like, go do it. I mean, like the buddy's yard, he was like an antisocial person. So
Yeah,
we
yeah,
think
yeah.
part of it was like, oh, we're just
Got
happy he has friends.
Yeah. I identify with that.
Yeah. So but that was like the greatest thing. I remember specifically talking about it now, like us building it, and it's happened to snow a lot one day. So when we stopped building it and just fucked around in the snow and had a snowball wars as practically adults having a snowball fight.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
it was just, that was like probably for me, once we tore that ring down is when everything started to go downhill for me. Like it started to become less and less fun.
Right.
I was always one of the big guys that were like helping, like, okay, let's do this storyline. Let's do that. I was one of the writers.
You had the book, baby.
Yeah. It was me, and like we had a committee. We had a 5-person committee, and I was always part of the committee, and I was for a great while. But as time went on and more people started joining, and you know how it is when you're in your 20s and late teens, and there are cliques still out of high school, and
Yeah. I mean, I still deal with it now. I'm almost 30. But yeah.
So eventually I kind of like weaned myself out / got pushed out and from that. So, but there was something magical about being at what we call it, where we built the ring. We called it Turex Stadium, which I don't know why. I just because we were asshole teenagers, I guess. That will be like, that's the fondest memory I have of wrestling. And I have one of the, I guess, guys' girlfriends was an artist and drew like a logo for us, and that was, I think, to the day we stopped operating under Falls Township Wrestling, FTW was our logo, and I have
That's
that
great.
tattooed.
That was FTW. That's perfect.
Yeah. No, that was when we were my thing was UWF, but was not related to the other UWF, and the other guys were TWF, Trampoline Wrestling Federation, and when we combined, we're like, well, what makes sense is FTW. Because let's figure that out. And it was started off as Federation of Teenage Wrestlers, and then when we got kicked out of Falls Township, we went to Bristol Township, and most of us were 19 or older at that point. Yeah, and we said, well, we're not teenagers anymore, really, so let's stick it to the man and call it Falls Township Wrestling. Yeah, and when I turned 18, that was the first logo I got tattooed on my arm, and I look at I see it every day, and it's like I know when I got it, my uncle said you're gonna regret that one day, and I was like, I don't think I am, because you know what, that time of my life, it's not something I can go back to, because it's not me anymore. I'm not that person anymore. Right. But for who I was in that decade, it was the best time of my life. For that that version of Kev.
Oh, dude, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's nothing. So that's what I'm saying, kids. As long as you do it safe, go out there and backyard wrestle. Just don't be dumb. Yeah, I think one time we set a table on fire, and then we realized that was a bad idea. Yeah, we were always really safe, and we always felt like we trained. Like there were days that we just met up and we would go over bumps, and we would go if you do it safe, I believe it's a great thing for kids to do. Yeah,
you don't need to pile drive each other.
No.
But you could do it safely.
No, and I'm not gonna lie. I know we had guys that did that kind of shit, but I guess my point is, if you're gonna do it, get trained. So even buy a DVD. I have a training DVD, and that helped me a lot. And I don't know, just be smart about it. But fucking, it's better than it's better than.
The Secrets of Wrestling Revealed. Yeah, that's where I learned a lot of my stuff.
Yeah, I actually the training DVD I have has a wrestler by the name of Prototype.
What?
In it.
Prototype?
What's that?
Is that the Prototype?
Well, if we're talking about You Can't See Me, John Cena.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I remember when I got that DVD, I'm watching it, I'm like, is that fucking John Cena? And it's like, watching the DVD, I'm like, he's talented? No, that's not John Cena.
Right.
And it gets so weird watching wrestlers before they make it big because they're all super talented.
Yeah.
And then they become The Rock. And now I'm not saying The Rock isn't talented, but The Rock became The Rock. He dropped an elbow.
Yeah.
And
At a certain point, they don't have to really do anything.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, they get it. Someone got in their ear and was like, "You have a limited bump card, baby." You don't like.
But you know what? Guys like Shawn Michaels wasn't like that. Like Shawn Michaels,
he was
even
my guy.
Me too.
As a kid, 100%.
Oh God. So we're gonna bond. God, I've been saying this week in and week out, but it's like I have like you're my Patronus. Like you are, we are like hetero soulmates.
Oh, yeah.
Because Shawn Michaels, I'm staring at 2 Shawn Michaels action figures in their packaging in my Shedio here.
What?
Yeah, I used to have the motorcycle cap with the zebra print. I used to have the heart glasses. I had the gloves. I think that's I have in my attic for sure. Still have them. I have Heartbreak Kid tights.
Oh my God!
Because my very first gimmick was Heartbreak Kev.
That's fucking beautiful. I had the red T-shirt with him like laying on it shirtless. I wore that as like a small child. I got that at the '95 King of the Ring.
Okay.
Yeah, he was. I have what color are your action figures pants?
So I have one that's old school Shawn Michaels, black and white.
I think I have that one. Just his arms move.
It looks like it probably. It's
Yeah.
the classic Superstars series.
Yeah, I think I have that.
And then I have one that is newer Shawn Michaels where he's got his like the built-in chaps to his tights.
Yeah, I always wish he'd go back to the tights. The tights was a good look for Shawn.
Yeah.
I wasn't so into the chaps, but he could always go.
Yeah, I mean Shawn Michaels was and still is like he is like to me the greatest wrestler there ever was.
Agreed.
Yeah, like I can't. The only one that I think holds a candle to him is this Jericho. I think Jericho is maybe even a better stick man than him. Like I think he can talk a little bit better than Shawn.
Yeah, I agree. I'll agree
but
with that.
but not as good in the ring as Shawn.
Yeah, nobody was. He was
No.
otherworldly. How did you? I know I got into wrestling by I happened to one morning put on the USA Network on like a Saturday morning and caught WWF Superstars, and from that point on, I was hooked. How did you get into it as a young man?
So this is the very first thing I remember about wrestling is going to a convention with my aunt and her boyfriend. And it was a very WCW heavy. We may have even gone to a WCW event. But what I remember is going and getting my picture taken with Sting, but Sting with color, not the black and white Sting.
Oh, old school Sting.
Yeah, and I mean that's really the only thing I remember from that particular day.
Yeah.
And it had to be very early 90s. I was born in 84, so it could have been late 80s even, but I can't imagine me remembering something from that far back. But it was my aunt and my and her boyfriend were and still are huge fans of wrestling. And I got into it through them. I clicked with Shawn Michaels right away. I probably, now that I'm talking about it, I think I kind of remember the Rockers, watching them.
Oh wow.
But what I remember is a post barbershop era of Shawn Michaels.
Yeah. And it's weird because when I first started watching, he was a quote unquote bad guy. But for whatever reason, I think it was because his music was so cool. For whatever reason, it was just like, this guy's the best. He could do no wrong in my eyes.
And he had fun, always had fun going down to the ring. And like, there was just the charisma is what won me over. And I mean, we are, from Philly. Like we are a bad guy. We root for the heels here.
That's very true. Very true.
And what I love, there is actually have you heard any other theme song besides Sexy Boy?
At that time?
Yeah, besides DX, like for singles wrestling, Shawn Michaels.
No.
He has another one.
Really?
That I believe, and I could be way off basis here, but I believe was only used either internationally or in Germany.
Okay.
It may have been on one of the early WWF volume music things, but it was it was this weird, like kind of metalish song, and maybe I don't think it referred to Sexy Boy, but it could have. I'm not sure. But like it opens up with him like talking about being bad, and he's like, "I was bad before it was cool to be bad."
What?
So this was like the era of Austin, when Austin like it was right around when Austin was getting popular. I think it was right before Shawn left. Just based off that context,
Right?
And like it opened up with him saying that, and it went into this weird, not Sexy Boy song. It wasn't bad from what I remember,
Right.
But and I will say there is a 20% chance I'm making this up, and I'm just having it's some weird dream I had years and years and years ago. But yeah. I'm pretty sure like it's on. I want to say this is why I don't think it's a dream. I want to say WWE The Music Volume 2.
Okay, I'm making a note of that. I'm going to research this heavily tonight.
But yeah, I mean, if you search for Shawn Michaels, I don't know what to even call it, because I swear I wish I had my old like custom mix CDs, because I know I had it on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was the bad guy, and he made it cool. As much as I think Austin gets that credit for making it cool to be a bad guy,
not for me.
But yeah, I think it was Shawn. I think he made it cool.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, not only that, I mean, DX was always fun to watch.
Oh yeah.
And up until they stopped doing things a few years ago. Like, I remember when it was we're talking the mid to late 2000s now, that era of DX. I remember you could tell the quality of programming when Shawn was on vacation and when he wasn't, because when he wasn't on vacation, he was in the writer's room.
Yeah.
And you could tell what the quality of TV, or maybe it was just because the DX segments were so goddamn good, but like I don't know if I'm assuming you watched it in that era, but like when Eric Bischoff was around and they cut that promo, him and Shawn, about or him and Hunter said, Eric said that you don't know what controversial means, and he flips out and says, hey you, what's your name? Stan? And he kicks Stan. See, I just kicked Stan. And like when they did that bit at the conference, like he was a chef, Shawn was a chef at like all that stuff is I think what influences me. Like DX and Shawn Michaels is like, I give a lot of credit to Kevin Smith, and rightfully, and you guys have listened to episode 37 by this point, where I sit down and talk about Kevin Smith, not to Kevin Smith. I wanted to, I tried to,
37.
Yep, exactly. That's why I wanted to talk to Kevin Smith, and you guys have listened to it by now, and you've heard me sob a lot because I probably talked about my uncle during it, and for reasons off air, I can tell you, Mike, but it's already everyone knows, if you listen to 37, knows why. Even more so, that's even more important to me now. So as much credit as I give to Kevin Smith, I should give it more to my uncle. But even so, like before my uncle helped form who I am, and as a person, and as the taste of pop culture I have, like Shawn Michaels and DX. I mean DX is probably after that, the Kevin Smith and my uncle era, but still, like my humor also is influenced by that. Like I have on our YouTube channel, I have a video of me and my buddy doing the DX, not the conference video that they was it that one? No, it was like when they recreated the press conference bit, and they were saying sorry to whoever, saying sorry to the Spirit Squad, saying sorry to all these people, and like Shawn was like, no, we can't. I don't care that we did that. That doesn't mean anything to me. Or we haven't even beaten the Spirit Squad yet. So like we did a parody of that. So like very influenced by Shawn, both in wrestling and in like just. I mean, acting might be the wrong term, but I consider that he was acting like that kind of comedy. Like that. I don't know. I was very influenced by Shawn.
No, I get it. I agree with you. I'm right there with you. Yeah, without a doubt. He was, in a way, I was a very shy young person. So Sean was like everything I wished I could be.
Yes.
Like he was
Yeah.
outgoing. He didn't give a crap what people thought about him. That was like I would see him and I'd be like, that's what I'm shooting for right there. But hey.
Yeah, and I come from the same place. Like I was a shy kid growing up, and I honestly probably if it wasn't for Sean, I wouldn't be doing this. To be perfectly honest, because
Oh wow.
the reason I'm podcasting is because I broke my ankle wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I didn't break my ankle wrestling. I broke my ankle and then could not wrestle anymore.
Right.
And so wrestling, like I saw him do it and how much fun it was and him being that person. And like, for me, that was a creative outlet. Or even in my teens, I looked at it as like, well, I hate the world, but I don't want to do drugs. I don't want to get into fist fights for real. Let me do this. Like, let me have this creative outlet. And it was just like a way to like, I think all creative people suffer from some form or some degree of depression.
I agree.
So like, I know that I have my bouts with it. Probably not as much now as I did as a teenager. And I'm sure everyone will say that, or most people will say that when they're not a major, like obviously if there's a whole nother level of depression if you're on medication or need to see somebody, but as someone who's realistically does not I'm not as depressed as I don't have it as bad as most people.
Like when you're a teenager, you have so much time to just think about yourself, and that's it. Like your
Yeah.
entire world is you,
especially
like,
when you are that shy kid. And like, I mean, I was made fun of. I was never really beat up or bullied. Like that never really happened. But like, I had eczema in high school, and so I had rashes on my arms that people made fun of. And so
that's like a target in high school.
Yeah,
everyone's looking for. Everybody in high school is looking for the step up they have on someone else because everyone is so insecure. It's like, that guy's got rashes. I'm above him.
Yep, exactly. And so getting into that ring, or I was always more of a fan of cutting a promo and being the bad guy, because being the bad guy was cool. Sean made it cool, and very much. I mean, I started podcasting out as my wrestling gimmick, as Steel Tip. So I mean, I kind of made it a little less gimmicky and it had a little bit more of me in it, but it was still a gimmick. Like this is the first show I've done in the 9 years or so that I've been doing podcasting that I'm for the most part me. Like maybe I amp it up a little bit, but for the most part I'm playing me. I'm not playing a character anymore. But yeah, very much so. I if it wasn't for Sean and the influences he had, I don't think I'd be podcasting. I mean, obviously I think I'm the direct influence is Kevin Smith, but I think it all starts it all starts with Sean and wrestling.
Yeah, I get that too. That's great.
So anyway, let's, to start the show off proper, let's talk about you a little bit.
Okay.
So the first question I have, because I was listening to, the first episode available on your iTunes feed today, which is episode 21.
Oh, wow.
Which is your very first episode of 2015.
Yeah.
And I was listening to it and I'm like, I thought these guys were in Delco. Like, so are you born and raised from that area?
I'm born and raised in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, yes.
So, okay, this is where I'm going to be an ignorant Bucks County guy, okay?
Do it.
Because you, like, three, if not all four of you on that episode, and I think your guest was Sean.
Okay, yeah.
But, at least two of you, I think you and probably Justin, if I'm remembering correctly, have what I would call kind of like a southern accent.
Dude, that's so weird that you say. I get that often. People like, I mean, in my head I sound like I have a everyman voice, but people will say, like, people not from Delaware County will hear the way I speak and be like, you have a little twang in your voice. Are you from the South? I'll be like, I'm from southern Delaware County, southern Pennsylvania. But that's so funny that you say that. I love hearing that because it just makes me laugh. I mean, I don't hear it at all. But it's just because, I'm from here. I don't hear an accent. But
and I listened to this podcast called Too Cool for Tabletop, which is a D&D podcast. And the hosts and cast members they all live in Texas. And I listen, like, you have more of a Southern accent, even when they let it flare out. Like, they every now and then they get a little Southern on me. But like for the most part, I'm listening to it. I'm like, they totally could be from Philly. Like, except they sound like me.
Yeah.
I was listening to the episode on my way home from work, and I'm like, there's no way he's from originally from Pennsylvania. There's no way.
Yeah, dude, 29 years, Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so so no one else that lives in the Delco area like picks up on, like, that's how.
No, that's
a Delco
yeah.
accent?
I believe so, and I don't think anyone around here picks up on it really. But
Wow.
when we talk to people from outside of here, I was talking to some dude from Boston over the summer who was like, he talks like a guy from Boston.
Yeah.
And he was like, "You guys got a little twang in your accent." I was like, "I don't have an accent. You do." Like, you're crazy. But
Well, that's funny because I similar experience is I used to travel for work.
yeah.
So going to Boston all the time, like, I'd always like the first like week or two that I would go, I go
Yeah.
and giggle, and they'd be like, "Man, you got that thick Philly accent." And I'm like, first of all, I'm from the suburbs. I don't say wooder.
Wooder.
Yeah.
Some water ice, some hoagies.
But I'll tell you what, that was probably one of the most frustrating things is, for a while I took a break from doing the like big traveling, like traveling the country to just traveling like the East Coast.
Yeah.
And we would go up to like not a day trip, but like an overnight trip would be going up to Boston to do some work. And like doing that company I worked for, we were doing like pizza shops and sandwich shops to do point of sale installations.
Okay.
And especially with that company, they always gave free food. Like the national company I worked for, not so much, but this one,
Yeah.
I'd always go to a sub shop and they'd offer free food. And this one up in Boston, I said, "Can I get a turkey hoagie?" And they're like, "What?" I'm like, like a roll with mayo, lettuce, turkey, cheese. "Oh, you mean a sub?" I'm like, you can call it a sub if you want, but it's a hoagie. Like, I don't know what you want me to do. And we got into like a 10-minute conversation about hoagie and subs. I'm like, you're not selling me. It's a hoagie.
It's always going to be a hoagie.
Yeah, it is crazy. Like the terminology that is like just Philly. Like in the whole world, it's a sub, but for Philly, it's a
very
hoagie.
small slice of the world. It's a hoagie.
Yeah,
And it will
for
never
me-
be anything else.
No, never. It's the other. I feel like I've been starting to tell these stories more and more, but another one of my favorite travel stories is going up to New York somewhere. I think it was like Long Island-ish.
Okay.
And we went to I think it was just a hotel bar. Me and my buddy went for dinner, and I said, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to try a cheesesteak from here. Like, why not? Like, it can't be terrible."
Yeah.
And I got the cheesesteak, and it was literally between like probably like 2 pieces of Italian roll bread,
Yeah.
like a steak, like a T-bone steak, but like thinner, like almost like a London broil, I guess.
Yeah.
With cheese on top of it.
Yeah.
And they gave it to me, and they walked away, and I looked at it. I'm like,
What is this?
"What the fuck is this?" And like they came back over, and I'm like, "I'm sorry. What is this?" And they said it's a cheesesteak. I'm like,
No, it's not.
I'm sorry. I can't. I try not to be that guy who's from Philly,
Right.
but I can't eat this. This is ridiculous. Like, you can't expect me to eat this.
Throw this away. This is trash.
And like we didn't eat there again because I felt like they were gonna spit on the food for the rest of the trip. So.
Absolutely. I mean,
But,
they probably should, right?
Yeah, I was that guy. And it's the same thing with like getting a Yingling. Like up in Long Island, you can't say "give me a lager." They're like, I say, "Can I have a lager?" And they're like, "A what? Like what one? What kind?" I'm like, "A Yingling?" And like, "Oh, we call them Yings." And like,
Yang.
and I'm like, "Well, why did you just go Southern? This is Long Island." And yeah, it is so crazy. Just like, and I don't think I've seen it repeated in other areas. Like I have not gone to it. Maybe Pittsburgh is another area that has their own little terminology.
Yeah, they say yins.
Yeah,
For y'all, they say yins.
Yins, and they say pop. That's
Pop,
a Pittsburgh. I mean that's
and they
that's
eat
used elsewhere. But
yeah, I think they have French fries on their sandwiches or some shit.
oh well, no, listen. Okay, that's where I think they're doing things right.
I've never had it.
Oh God, Jen, my fiance Jen, her mom moved to Pittsburgh for a little while.
Yeah.
So we went up there a few times to visit, and the first time we went up, she's like, "You got to try. I know it's not a Philly cheesesteak, but you got to try this Primanti Brothers sandwich."
Okay.
And like she told me about it. I'm like, French fries on my sandwich, coleslaw on the. What are you? This is not how you eat a sandwich. And I'll be damned, it is probably the best piece of food I've ever eaten.
Wow, really?
Oh my God, it's so good. I don't like coleslaw. I didn't like coleslaw before that. I started eating that sandwich with the coleslaw on it, and now I eat. And it could be because I'm over 30. I think that's the line too, that you start enjoying coleslaw in your 30s.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Now I'm starting to test it out. I hated it my entire life. I'm on the verge of 30. I'm just like, I'll give coleslaw a shot. Who am I?
I saw like in a store like a tub of it. I was like, I think I want to buy coleslaw.
That looks good to me for some reason now.
It's weird, and I remember hating it as a child in my teens and early. Like I used to tell my waiter, just don't bring like it's gonna go to waste. Like don't bring it. And now I'm like, can you bring extra?
Right. I'm gonna put it on my sandwich. I'm gonna get creative with the coleslaw.
But yeah, if you ever get out to Pittsburgh, or I think they have one in Florida at Primanti's. Do it, try it. I think the original is just like a cheeseburger or version of it or something.
Yeah.
It's just so good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it at all. It is. I mean, I guess I probably do enjoy the Philadelphia cheesesteak more because I'm thinking about that cheese whiz, and it's just. But I mean, it is the Primanti Brothers sandwich. I mean, I would take them as a sponsor, and I'm a Philadelphia person. Like, it is so good. I mean, I have a shirt from Primanti Brothers. That's how good it is. I mean, granted, it was a gift, but like I wear it with pride.
Right.
It is. There's nothing wrong with putting French fries on a sandwich or coleslaw or whatever else they put on it. It's all good. All good.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So, all right. So Delco.
Yeah.
You guys just have that southern. That's so weird to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's super weird to me because, like I said, I don't hear it.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, Delco is a very strange place. It's like kind of its own world here, down under Philadelphia.
Yeah,
in this weird small little area where I guess it's just one of those things when you're from a place, it's like you notice all the weird things about the place and then you can say them. But then there's some Delco people that are like, will wear like t-shirts that are like, I'm from Delco, fist fight me in a back alley because I'm crazy. But what can you do? We're not all like that.
No.
But
I feel like you get that everywhere though.
That's you get those townies or whatever.
Because
number one podcast in Delco.
Well, it's funny. When I heard you guys, I don't think I heard it. I mean, I heard it on the podcast today, I guess, but it's more. You guys, I guess it was on your Twitter or somewhere. I saw it, and I was like, that reminds me of this podcast, Another Cast from Delaware.
Oh, I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, they don't do current, like they haven't done a show in a long while.
Yeah.
But it's a good like 2-man show. It's exactly like so far what I've listened from you guys, like you guys fall right in line with what I'm looking for when I want to listen to a podcast, which is just like a couple of buddies talking.
Yeah.
You guys, you make it more showy, which is like that harkens back. I mean, and I'm basing this off of episode 21, mind you.
Yeah,
so
that's fun.
But from what I've listened to so far, like it reminds me of like the podcast I used to do. Like we had segments, we cut to commercials, and like it just it harkens back to the type of like podcasts that I really do dig, which are basically at the end of the day just a couple of buddies sitting around talking.
Yeah.
So, but that's what Another Cast is. It's they're from Delaware. They actually
I love Delaware.
Really? Okay.
Delaware is 3 minutes from my house. Like,
Oh, wow.
I am on the very, very bottom of Delaware County. Delaware
okay.
is my backyard. I regularly buy liquor in Delaware because it's cheaper and smuggle it into Pennsylvania. So I'm a bit of a criminal. But
You are a Han Solo.
yes. That's what I.
Smuggler in your little Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, my little Corolla Millennium Falcon, and my parents actually retired. They live at the Delaware beaches, so
Okay.
I already got an excuse if I get pulled over and they're like, "You're smuggling," and be like, well, "I'm going to my parents' house."
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
fuck it.
Yeah, I haven't spent much time in Delaware. My uncle used to work there, and I'd go to work with him every now and then. And then I know, like, I've been listening to Dan Drago's podcast, 25 O'Clock, which is on the Philadelphia Podcast Society page that he promotes, and he was also a guest on this show. And he did an episode a couple years ago when oh shit, I'm blanking on what bar closed. I'm blanking, but it's one of the. It may have been Doc Watson's. No, I don't think it was Doc Watson's. Some bar in Philly closed. Some major music venue bar closed.
Yeah.
And they did like a remembrance. It wasn't Doc Watson's. It was something else. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But like he talked to somebody who was in Delaware, and like they talked really highly of both like the Delaware kind of being like Little Philadelphia in the music scene, and like a lot of the Delaware musicians would just come up to Philly to play and whatnot. And,
Yeah, Wilmington's like right down the street from Philly, basically.
yeah. I haven't. I mean, I guess because for me, it's still like it's probably about an hour away.
Yeah, you're on the other side of Philly.
Yeah. So I'm on the east. Like Trenton is 2 minutes. I could walk to Trenton in about 10 minutes if I wanted to.
Oh,
But-
okay. My geography's all messed up. You're that close to Trenton.
Yeah, like we go to the Thunder games a lot because it's literally like if
How
I
is
don't
that?
I don't mind it when they're not playing the Red and Phillies. It's
Right.
like which I enjoy watching those games because then I'm like, all right, well, I'm obviously cheering for the Reading Phillies.
Yeah.
But the drive is terrible because that's everyone wants to go to that game because
Right.
everyone here is a Philadelphia fan. So. But no, you know what? It's a cool. I like going there for the kids because like it's A, cheap tickets normally.
Yeah.
B, it's like it's really small. Like you don't have. There's typically not a lot of people there, and they have like a play area for the kids, and
That's great.
and it's you can talk to the players if my kids aren't old enough to want to go down there to talk to them yet,
Right.
but my nephew who's 9 goes down.
Oh, dude, that's a sweet spot right
Yeah.
there. To be
So-
close to players.
Yeah, and like they're obviously much more like willing to talk and give autographs than like the major leagues.
Right.
So yeah, it's like they do everything right there, and they like the Thunder, like that organization is just really really cool, despite being a Yankee team.
Right.
Like, it's a really cool organization right there, and it's I got into like a little argument with somebody when I was there, like just like I was in line for a beer and I was wearing my Phillies gear, and they're like, "Man, why are you even here if you're a Phillies fan?" I'm like,
Come on.
like I live 2 minutes away. like I'm pretty sure South Jersey is Philadelphia Phillies fans. Like,
Yeah,
you can't-
100%.
yeah. Maybe you're the odd Mets or Yankees fan, but like
Right.
most of the people here are Phillies. You know.
Yeah.
Like, so it was just this weird instance of I don't know. It was just a weird, like only bad experience, and I wouldn't even call it bad experience. It was just like
Yeah.
I'm gonna go get my fries from Chicken and Pete's and just go sit down and we can eat.
That's a very Northeast United States thing, like very territorial about sports, like
Oh my god!
confrontational. I love the Flyers, and
Yeah.
I mean I love all Philadelphia sports teams, but like if you go to a Phillies Mets game, it's almost not even fun, especially when like the Phillies were good. It was like there's so much tension because the Mets fans come down and the Phillies fans are rowdy, and it's like there's fights everywhere. Like if you bring a young kid to that, it's like could be traumatic.
I remember going to and I like watching hockey, but I wear Flyers gear all the time.
Yeah.
But I know nothing. I really know nothing about the sport. Like I recently got into it.
Yeah.
When my kids were very young, and I just don't have time to sit. It's one of those sports, just like baseball, which I love dearly.
Yeah.
But like I'm not going to sit down and watch it all the time because it's.
You got kids. You got stuff to do.
I got kids, and there's 80 games. Like I'll catch a game here and there. But we went to a playoff game, I believe, a Flyers Penguins game.
Oh gosh,
Which they're always my favorite because being now the Flyers and Penguins are like it's weird for me because like I'm a Steelers fan, and
okay.
part of that might be because I wrestled a steel tip and had a whole gimmick of living in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
But the other part of it is like they're not NFC. They're not. My number one rule is they're not NFC East, so I can root for them outside of Philly. If they're not NFC East, and my number two rule is they're not NFC. So like even more so, like they're my number two team because like. The only time I'll root against them is when they're playing the Eagles.
Right. I get that. That's like the perfect second team to have. Other league, totally separated.
Yeah. And I mean, because baseball, like after the strike of '93, like I stopped watching for years, just because I kind of I fell out of love with the sport. But I got back into it probably about a year or two before we won the World Series, so like 06, 07.
That's a good time.
Yeah, and I got back into it, and so for that reason, like I have no ill will or love for the Pirates. They're just a team.
Yeah,
they're just there. But the Penguins are like, well, I knew it. Like the reason I got into hockey is because I had an old neighbor who was a Penguins fan.
Okay,
and so I started watching hockey at his place. But like I was like, well, I'm a Flyers fan. Like I'm Philly. I'm gonna root for Philly.
Right.
So like I don't hate the Penguins, but I also don't like I don't know. I have a weird thing with the Penguins. I would never buy any of their gear. Like I buy Steelers gear.
Yeah.
And I don't feel bad about it, but I can't. I wouldn't buy Penguins gear.
Right.
But yeah, I always love those games, the Flyers Penguins, because it's just that turnpike,
charge.
Yeah.
It's like
But
I like to watch them on television.
Oh well, yeah. So we went. I went to the Flyers Penguins playoff game, and like walking to my car, me and my buddy saw 3 or 4 fights.
Right. It's nuts.
All right, we're gonna cut it right there. Big thanks to Mike from Doom Thugs for being on the show. If you can't tell, these were recorded out of order last week. Obviously, I talked about what I talked about, and I make direct reference to my uncle in this week's episode. So things are out of order. Deal with it. And we'll be back next time with part 2 of our conversation with Mike from Doom Thugs right here on awesomepodcast.com. We've been awesome.